Another difficult episode to write, another delicate topic to address. Of all the episodes in this season, this is definitely the one where I'll be the most vulnerable, I'd say. It's not a subject I usually talk about, but of all my life experiences, it ranks as the second most significant and the first among my biggest regrets. Now, those who know me know that I often say there's nothing in life we should regret. But to reach this philosophy, I went through some serious challenges, one of them being abortion. When you're a woman, the question of motherhood holds a central place in our lives. It's often tied to societal, cultural, and personal expectations that can influence our choices and life paths. For some, motherhood is a profound desire, a goal to reach, while for others, it can raise questions, fears, or even rejection. This issue can also become a source of pressure as women navigate between their professional ambitions, personal identity, and social norms. So, motherhood, or the choice not to become a mother, becomes a complex subject touching on autonomy, freedom of choice, and how a woman defines herself in a world where female roles are constantly evolving. But what about the question of motherhood in the context of abortion? Episode 12, Baby. Aside. I want to say that my beliefs stem from my life experiences, from what I've felt, from my journey. For those who don't share my opinion, please know that I respect yours. I understand that your views are also shaped by your experiences, your background, and sometimes even a lack of experience. I hope everyone will receive this episode for what it is, a moment from my personal life. Unlike some, know that, whatever my opinions or life experiences, I don't judge or condemn anyone. My intent is simply to share an intimate part of my life, hoping it resonates with your own experience and may guide you to, hopefully, make better choices if you ever find yourself in a similar situation. Hey guys, it's Lucrece. Thank you for listening to Destiny Podcast. As you've gathered in this episode, I'm going to go back over the biggest regret of my life. For those with a good memory, you know that this abortion happened a year before my breakup with Mark, as I mentioned in episode 10, which is dedicated to him. But before getting there, I'd like to talk about how I used to view abortion. In my case, there was clearly a before and an after. And while each woman is different, I truly think that only those who have gone through it might understand what I mean when I describe abortion as an act too often trivialized when the reality of the experience is very different from what one imagines. For a long time, I saw abortion as a solution created to help women. The Veil Law of 1975, which legalized abortion in France, was established to give women a legal and safe framework to terminate an unwanted pregnancy. I understood that this legal framework was seen as a safe alternative in the face of an unwanted pregnancy and addressed a public health need. I had a hard time with the American pro-life perspective or even the French version, often presented as extremist and associated with ultra-Catholics. There's a process of dehumanization around abortion, and it was an idea I accepted. Because of this, I didn't really understand when one should consider that they were expecting a baby and becoming a mother. This question made motherhood even more complex for me, as my experiences made me go through several phases on the subject. Until I was 16, I wanted to become a mother. But after witnessing a miscarriage at 6 months, I entered a phase where I no longer wanted children. This event made me realize a terrible reality. A parent can be forced to bury their child, and that idea was far too devastating for me. My solution was to spare myself such pain by choosing not to have children. 3 years later, I fell in love with Mark, and over the years, the desire for marriage, to start a family, and have children returned because he was the man I loved and with whom I wanted to build my life. At 25, the question of motherhood was no longer a question but a reality. I was pregnant. Saying I was panicked would be an understatement. I remember calling my sister, the first person I reached out to, in tears with a pregnancy test in hand. When I told her, she rejoiced. "No, this is not good news," I told her. Hearing myself say those words tears me apart. I was pregnant for the first time in my life, and it wasn't good news. She replied, "Oh, wait, don't panic. Have you talked to Mark? What did he say?" I explained to her that she was the first to know. She calmed me down and suggested I call Mark, saying he might react differently. I thanked her and called Mark. I don't even remember if I said hello. I think I blurted out the news quite bluntly. "Hello, yes, I'm pregnant." His response was equally blunt. "Did you call to schedule an abortion?" I stayed silent for a moment, stunned by his lack of hesitation and how quickly he seemed to find a solution. He didn't hesitate or ask questions. His first thought was to ask if I'd made arrangements for an abortion. I don't judge him. He wasn't ready, just as I wasn't. He had just finished his studies, and I still had a year left. How could we have been ready? There's no right or wrong reaction to such news when one feels unprepared. I was panicked, and so was he. His reaction was just a reflection of that panic. I called my sister back and explained. She comforted me. I hung up and did what Mark asked. I called a clinic to schedule the abortion. I remember the lonely bus ride to the first appointment. I remember the brief relief when the midwife didn't see an embryo, until she said, "Ah, there it is." Confirmed I was pregnant. I remember the anxiety, the phone conversations with Mark. Everything around me seemed designed to make me afraid. What would I tell my father? My mother would kill me. I had a year left of studies. I couldn't keep it. Mark didn't want it, and if I kept it alone, what would I tell my child when they asked where their dad was? My father wasn't always there. I couldn't be selfish like that. If only I had a job, I would have kept it. I remember telling Mark it was only because I wasn't working that I wasn't keeping the baby. I didn't want to betray him or go against his wishes. But if I had a job, I would have kept it. I wouldn't have asked him for anything, and if one day he wanted to see his child, I wouldn't have opposed it. But the reality was that I didn't have a job. Mark was adamant. He didn't want a child. I didn't want to lose Mark, and I didn't want my parents to turn against me. I wanted to be a mother, yes, but I especially wanted to offer my baby a home with both a dad and a mom. I remember that time crying in the bathroom, hand on my belly, talking to you, my baby. I asked your forgiveness with what little strength I had left. Finally, I had my answer. When should one consider that they are expecting a baby and becoming a mother? For me, the answer was there. I was asking for forgiveness like a mother asks forgiveness from her child. You weren't just an embryo, you were a child. I had been like you. We all were. I was lucky. My mom kept me, and I was born. You, I deprived of that chance. I let fear control me, and at the hospital, I took the first pill to stop you from developing. I remember telling Mark, I'm afraid of aborting now, and that in 10 years when I want kids, I won't be able to have them. 10 years later, at 35, while dreaming of becoming a mother, I don't even have the shadow of a partner on the horizon. I remember that bus ride again, this time with Mark, to take the second pill to trigger the expulsion, as they say. I remember the pain. Oh my God, the pain. They told me it was like menstrual cramps, only stronger. In reality, they were contractions, similar to those of childbirth. I remember twisting in pain over the sink, crying like a baby, saying, "I want my mom." I was separating from you, and I needed my mom. I remember you, baby. You weren't just an embryo. You had all the makings of a little human being. A little human in development, yes, but a human nonetheless. I remember watching my body change and then suddenly return to normal, as if you had never existed. I remember the bus ride home with Mark by my side. Back home, as if nothing had happened, I started to dance as if nothing had happened. Mark watched me. He knew. I was in armor mode, detaching myself so as not to face my emotions. If I let them in, I might not get back up. So I sang and danced as if nothing had happened. Maybe after all, nothing happened. I remember my evening shower, alone in the bathroom. I no longer danced, no longer sang. The emotion hit me like a wave. Sitting in the shower, I broke down in tears. I couldn't take it anymore. You were gone, little baby. But I was still here, left to live with the horrible feeling that I had made the worst decision of my life. And so I cracked. I cried, trying to stifle my sobs so Mark wouldn't hear me. But he knows me inside out. I thought I had been discreet, but he heard me crying. I remember Mark coming to comfort me while I wept. Thankfully, I wasn't alone. 3 people knew: Mark, one of my best friends, and my sister. Thankfully, I wasn't alone. I asked for your forgiveness, little baby. I asked God for forgiveness too. Sometimes I pray for you because I know you're in heaven, alongside other little ones like you whose lives were cut short. No matter what anyone says, I know, little baby, that you were alive. But I let fear take over, and for that, I ask your forgiveness. I know many of you won't understand, won't respect this, or will judge me for it. But I also know there's someone out there, someone like you. You who are panicked and torn. You who are on the verge of letting fear and anxiety lead you to make a decision you might regret. Maybe you're not literally expecting a baby. Maybe the weight you're carrying is being bullied, losing a job, or a partner you loved. Maybe you can't stand your reflection in the mirror, you have too many unpaid bills, or your thoughts are so dark you're considering ending it all. I don't know what it is, but I know you're about to make a choice you'll regret. So please let my experience guide you, and take this piece of advice. Lesson number 13. Don't let fear control you. Life is too precious to waste. Thank you for listening to my story until the end. If you're facing a tough decision, one that involves a drastic and frightening change in your life, or that endangers your well-being, your life, or someone else's, I beg you, seek help. Seek help in any way you can. Hey everyone, this was Lucrece. I'll see you soon for another episode of Destiny Podcast.